Mara Kiesling is Executive Director of the National Center for Transgender Equality, and Travis Weber is the Director of the Center for Religious Liberty at the Family Research Council. Well, I don't know how to deal with this except common sense. I want to start with you, Travis. Excuse me. I want to start with Travis. What you just saw, what bathroom is she supposed to use at the airport? Just tell me. Give her advice. Pretend you're her best friend.
So, Chris, I think
what bathroom should she use?
We want to be sure to make sure that localities and school districts have the ability to decide this question for what's best for them. So we got to be clear here about what's actually going on with President Trump. Do you want to hear my answer on this?
I want you to answer my question.
Right. So I'm going to answer your question here. So in reality, what we have here is a question of the federal government taking power away from localities. President Trump saying the federal government should not mandate that. Let localities decide.
What do you think is which restroom should she use?
It depends what I'm going to this.
What you care about this issue? What restroom should she use?
Yeah, so it depends where I'm at, right? If I'm in a locality in a school district where there's no issue, well, my answer might be different.
It's not. You're here. You volunteered to come in. I appreciate your guts in coming on. Tell me what the right answer is. We're arguing about which bathrooms a person allowed to use. The problem is you're not really. I mean, I want to have a conversation on this, but are you afraid to hear my explanation? Full answer? Hardly.
Okay, well
Hardly
then why
afraid.
You got to let me have my answer.
The way we do these programs is they're called interview programs, and I interview people, and when you come on the show, you answer the questions.
Right. So it's important to have an answer to the question if one's presented, right? So in the case of Gloucester, they had an accommodation for that student in that case. Now, the accommodation was not satisfactory. Other school districts, they may have no issue. They may decide the question separately. In Palatine, you had students who were afraid of their privacy. These students are the ones whose privacy is being overlooked.
Let me ask you about this.
So it depends.
All of a sudden, the President of the United States is getting involved in something like this. He didn't have to do what he did the other day. The President's now saying that he's going to rescind the guidelines issued by the previous president, his predecessor. And his predecessor said basically go to the bathroom where you're most comfortable, not the one that matches your birth certificate. Yeah, what's this mean in real life? Well, most people are not transgender. Yeah. They want to know the situation and what it's like.
Absolutely. Well, these guidelines were not about bathrooms. Bathrooms were included in it, but they were a small part. They were about allowing children to go to school, allowing them to have dignity, allowing them to fit in like all other kids. Wow. But you know, Travis is just wrong. The reason we have federal civil rights laws is because your rights as a minority person, whatever kind of minority it is, should not be based on what the individual state wants, what the individual zip code wants. And Travis knows that. He's an attorney. The whole state's... one of the most scary things about this is Jeff Sessions, after being Attorney General for less than 2 weeks, is taking away people's civil rights, saying he won't enforce civil rights laws, and he's claiming states' rights. Yeah. That's pretty chilling.
What about Title IX, Travis?
Yeah, so
protecting people regardless of whatever their sex is or identity, they can't be prejudiced against.
No, you're absolutely correct. So Title IX has been on the books for a long time. Title IX prohibits sex discrimination. This is really what this question is about, right? How is Title IX to be interpreted? Now, President Obama reinterpreted that in the guidance last year. This merely takes that guidance away and puts us back to where we were for decades. We existed, and under the current state of the status quo, with this guidance removed, schools can do whatever they want. A locality can do what it wants on this issue.
What do you think they should do?
They should sort these issues out.
Now, what should they do in terms of the policy?
It depends what's going on in that locality.
What's your position?
So generally, students choose the bathroom of their biological sex. It's important that whose rights are being overlooked here. Okay. Whose rights are being overlooked. The students, the girls who are going into the locker rooms.
Are you still here?
Girls are going to locker rooms.
Laverne Cox is still with us. Laverne, what do you think about that? He's talking in theoretical issues, and I understand he's an attorney. But, you know, Judge Scalia believed, a hero of a lot of conservatives, that he believed that, you know, look at the law as written. It says sex. It says gender. Title IX. Well, so it should give rights to people who are transgender. Go ahead, Laverne. You should have rights as transgender.
Well, Gavin Graham is the young man who's going to the Supreme Court, and this Title IX question will be decided for the first time by the Supreme Court. And a lower court actually just determined that Gavin was indeed covered under Title IX, and several courts all over this country have determined that Title IX covers transgender people. Well, part of what it says in Title IX is gender and also gender stereotypes, right? So if we look at the law, it really actually, I believe it does protect trans people, and I hope the Supreme Court rules in favor of that. And I think it's important, again, to elevate the lived experiences of trans people. And sort of talk in theory. The reality is that trans people have been using the bathroom for many years without incident. All the things, all the sort of privacy concerns, the bill that exists in Texas, SB 6, claiming to be a privacy bill, suggests that the privacy of young girls is going to be sort of compromised by me and young trans girls being in the bathroom with them. That's actually not the case. It's not the case.
Let me ask you a question. Should Laverne use a men's room?
So,
see, again, you have
I just want to address what the problem is.
Can I just say,
Travis,
should Mara use a men's room?
Travis knows that if Laverne and I came into the men's room with him, he would be entirely freaked out. Laverne and I cannot use the men's room, should not use the men's room. And by the way, if we want to go back to how it's been for decades, we will leave this stuff alone and allow people to just be adults about it. Travis is wrong that the Obama administration reinterpreted this. Remember, the Gavin Grimm case that Laverne is talking about, it got to the circuit court before this guidance. This guidance was done because the courts have said Title IX protects us. Title IX does not protect us because of this guidance.
I mean, if we want to have a discussion
Who has
on law,
standing on this, by the way, besides transgender people? Because I think your side of the argument is that that there are people who are harmed by a transgender person going into the bathroom they feel comfortable in. You say people are harmed by that. Who are the people that are harmed?
Students in high school. So remember, this
Who's harmed?
Students in high school.
Describe them. What's the harm?
I think we all understand what the harm is when you have a 14. Okay, let me explain it. 14-year-old girl in the locker room. Someone comes in with male genitalia to their locker room, of course they're going to be harmed. Their rights are not being protected here, and all I'm asking for is a reasonable discussion, considering their rights. Let these localities decide the issue. That's what we can currently do right now. President Obama was the one that was going to mandate this on everyone. Now localities can decide the issue, and it's not as clear-cut on Title IX. Title IX is spread with sex discrimination. There are issues being sorted out in the courts.
I want
a Texas judge put an injunction on that. The law is not clear.
He says that
portrait of the situation.
Title IX is sex discrimination and doesn't cover trans people, and then he is saying bathrooms should be based on biological sex. He is talking about
Well, now he's talking about locker rooms. Let's
so there's a lot of different issues here. It's important to have.
Well, what do you respond to? Is the way Laverne, if you want to respond, we don't have much time here, but I do think we want to air these out in real terms. Go ahead.
I think it's important when we have conversations with and about transgender people that we do not reduce us to body parts. We are more than the sum of our parts. And it's so deeply objectifying and dehumanizing to talk about trans people and reduce us to body parts. That is really disturbing. And we need to look at the evidence. We need to look at all the hundreds of localities all over the country that have public accommodations protections. And that's really what we're talking about for trans people. And everything that he's claiming happens actually doesn't happen. Instead, trans people feel as if they have a right to exist in society. My transition was about me existing in public space and thriving in society. And because I was able